Hello, it's me again. Tonight is the night before my next chemo, my 5th chemo out of 6. So I'm really close to being done, and I have not found time to record many videos, and so I wanted to record a video tonight. I'm in my bedroom alone, Paul's sleeping on the couch so I can get some sleep. I'm all hyped up on steroids, so hopefully I can sleep tonight. And I just wanted to kind of share little things that are going on, and then kind of share some things that God's been working on in my heart and in my life right now. So this last round, you can watch my chemo round 5 to kind of see all my side effects, but then like after the side effects kind of like slowly taper off really bad, for those couple days, and then they slowly, after a week, you're starting to feel like a lot better, just still having like stomach issues the whole time, and tiredness that gets a lot better. And then I'm noticing, and you may notice in my videos, and I'm sorry, I just have trouble finding words when I'm like making a video, which isn't often, or like having like a conversation with someone. Like some words just don't come as quick, or like I like slur my speech sometimes. I like just mispronounce things, and some of that is like normal. I just notice I'm doing it a little bit more than normal, and I really think it's just like a little bit of a cognitive stuff going on and like accumulating, and hopefully it will get better. I know it will get better, I'm sure. I don't know. So, but in between, after like a week and a half-ish, this time have felt the best I've felt when I'm in like my normal days. Like right now, today, the last couple days, I felt the strongest I've been, this whole time. And honestly in a long time, because before I started chemo I was pregnant, and so when you're pregnant you just don't always feel your best or like your strongest and your healthiest a lot of times, especially towards the end. But like right now I do, and it's wonderful, and I've been able to like go on some jogs recently and work in the garden a lot and just be like a lot more active, and I know that helps. And also I think maybe my eating this time around was a little better, maybe. I just listened to my body a little bit more again when it came to eating, and like putting the right things in my body after talking to the dietitian this last time around. I think that has really helped too. And another thing, is that we were a little more social this time around. We like made, just because I needed it, made an effort to like invite a couple of like our friends separately over for dinner, and like went out to the park with the girls, went on a double date. And so that, I think that has really helped as well. It's been wonderful. So, all of that, especially like just being more social, has been super encouraging. That's been like the thing that's been really encouraging. Had a couple sweet people again drop gifts off this time, last couple times around, which is really nice, or send things in the mail, lots of cards in the mail. Been reached out to by a couple like friends from high school, which is just so sweet. People I haven't like talked to in a really long time reached out and just kind of like took time to write like a heartfelt message and things to like on Facebook Messenger. And so that was just like fun to like kind of just reconnect a little. And yeah, things that are just kind of like discouraging is, I've mentioned this before, but just being stuck at home a lot because of cancer and having a newborn, that like it's just harder to take newborns out in public, and like timing wise, and car seats, and when you have a second kid especially. And then yeah, like the pandemic and cancer treatments and having a newborn, you just kind of feel like a little isolated more than normal. I'm sure I've mentioned that before. It is not horrible, it's just like sometimes I get myself down on it, and really what it is like selfishness. Like it's like I want to do something I want to do right now, and I can't because of whatever. And that's like I think a normal thing that like a lot of moms deal with. It takes a long time to like admit that it's like a little bit of like selfishness, because like nothing's wrong with like a lot of times it's like I want to do the dishes but I can't because I'm holding a baby, and so it's not like that much of it's not like a super bad selfishness, but it's just like wanting to do something that you can't do. And I see it end in sight, and so it's so nice. You know, I see this is my 5th treatment tomorrow. It's gonna be a rough week. I get a lot of anxiety around it, and like just kind of like, ooh, I don't want the rest of the week to come. But then the 6th one's coming, you know, and then I get like 6 weeks to, like, you know, in between that and the surgery, and then I'll be down for another 6 weeks after surgery. But I'm so looking forward to those 6 weeks. We've planned a couple things, a little like short little camping getaways, and it should just, I'm hoping it's gonna be a really good time. So some things that God is working on me, some like spiritual insights the last couple of weeks. So I started a new study through the Daily Grace Company. I've done lots of studies. So I'm doing one I'm sure I've mentioned with some friends on Habakkuk, sorry. And then I also am doing one on Jonah. I just started the Jonah one this week, and it's like a 4-week study, and I've done 1 week, and it is wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. And then, but in general, a subject that has come up and I've like pondered on is like the concept of like faith and faithfulness. And I have a couple things I wrote down, and a lot of these are like quotes from books that I've been reading. Faith turns a promise into a prophecy. And this one I really like. It says, faith does not say, I see this as good for me, therefore God must be in it. Instead, faith declares, God sent it, therefore it must be good for me. That was like a big one. You know, like the sense that, oh, this is good. Obviously, this is good over here. It's going to be good for me. So it's definitely, you know, something God wants me to do, or something God has given to me. And that may be the case, but that doesn't really take much faith to like do a good thing. That's like been my whole life. But the opposite end in this quote talks about God sent it, therefore it must be good for me. And that's hard to like take and hard to think about, because to think that like, okay, God put this in my life, God put this illness in my life at this time in my life, you know, like I feel like I would have, it takes faith no matter what to deal with this. This is difficult no matter how old you are, no matter if you have kids or if you don't have kids, or if you have grown kids. This is a really, really hard thing. So I'm not downplaying this illness at all, but like for me, I could see like, okay, maybe I would be able to handle this a lot better if I was 10 years older and my kids were 10 years older, or if I was 20 years older and my kids were 20 years older. You know, I feel like, okay, I could like handle this better. And but God decided not to give it to me when I'm, you know, in my 40s or 50s. God is giving me this cancer when I'm in my 30s and I have young children, and that's the part that's like making it like really hard. And I really just feel like this whole time around I'm like truly exercising faith in a way that I've never had to exercise it before. And then just the concept of the just shall live by faith, which is coming up in the Habakkuk study that we're doing. Okay, so I listened to a really interesting podcast today. It's the Buckley podcast called Relatable. I just started listening to it, and she did an interview with Andrew Brunson, who was American pastor, missionary in Turkey, who was jailed for 2 years for preaching the gospel. And he has a new book out called God's Hostage, and I plan on like looking into it if I'm gonna read it. I don't know too much about like his story, just like, you know, I've heard about him in the news. He was in prison from like 2016 to 18, I think so. It was like right before Trump got elected, I believe. But from 2016 to 2018 in Turkey. And just like hearing his like view on like struggling in his faith was really interesting. He said that, you know, because when he was in prison, he didn't know how long he was going to be in prison. He was sentenced for life years. And so he said that first year, it just broke him, like spiritually, and he like doubted God's goodness and just like didn't see the purpose in it, you know, and just like had a really, really hard time. And he had absolutely no fellowship with other Christians, and it just like, it really, really broke him. He had a hard time. And then the second year, God was building him, and he just talks about like faith in general and persecution, and it was just really, really good. And you know, we don't sometimes know why God puts things in our lives, and I just could find myself really relating. Not at all like what I'm going through is like prison, like being in prison for being a Christian, but just like having like suffering in your life and having like a trial come up, like an unexpected trial, and like the timing of it and everything. It was really good. And he talked about how like he felt like isolated from God for a little bit, and like God wasn't speaking to him and like not comforting him like he expected. And I kind of dealt with that for like weeks, not a year. But with the second time around, you know, I've talked about how the first time around I had cancer last June, different type of cancer, found out I was pregnant. Like I had like real faith. I felt like, and I just felt God wrap his arms around me and like guide me through it the whole time. And it was almost like, looking back at it, it was like a trial run, you know, like anytime you like step out in faith, you know, it's gonna like build your faith for like the next event and the next event. And I felt like that built my faith. And then the second time around, what I found out, for like 2-3 weeks, it was just like complete silence from God. And it was like, I don't know, I didn't like feel that comfort like I had expected, and he wasn't like leading me. And so I had to like exercise my faith muscle. But also like thinking about like having faith isn't like necessarily something I can do. I'm like failing at having faith. I fail all the time at having faith. But like really it's like relying in God's faithfulness, because he is faithful and he's always going to be there, and he like is going to fulfill all of his promises and does fulfill his promises. And so like he is faithful, and like we have to like practice exercising our faith. And oh man, I was trying to think of an analogy that I like made up a while back about faithfulness, and I can't remember it now. But I remember it wasn't a perfect analogy. Like no analogies are ever perfect, especially when it comes to like spiritual matters. There's always like little like things that like don't really make sense in it. But oh, I think this was it. Let me see if I can explain it. I don't know. Okay, yeah. So analogy I made up. Faith is kind of like a fruit tree. All right, so you think of like God is the tree, like the apple tree. He is the apple tree, and he is faithful. Like that's what he is. And we are like the apples. Like we only exist and we only can be faithful and like grow because like God is the apple tree, you know, like he is. And we are not. We like we grow because of him, if that makes any sense. And I felt like when I made this up a while back, it made a lot more sense. Yeah, but anyways, I just felt like I've really now just had to like exercise my faith muscle. But again, it's not like anything I am doing. Like I am not perfect. And one other last thing I'll talk about, these are always a little bit like all over, but is the concept of like, why does bad things happen to good people, or why would God allow like bad things in the world? And like when I hear that, I think that's a question like lots of people have. You know, I think about like God, that's not how God wanted it. You know, when he created the world, he made it perfect. He made it flawless. He made it sinless. There wasn't anything evil. Sickness wasn't in the Garden of Eden. Death wasn't in the Garden of Eden. But then like original sin, when sin entered the world through Eve and Adam, that's when sickness, that's when disease, that's when cancer, that's when death, that's when disappointments, that's when like all these things came into the world as a punishment. And like that's when we were separated from God. And so, you know, a lot of these things God doesn't want in our life, but they're a product of sin. And not necessarily like sin that I have done, but I have sinned. I am a sinner. It is only because I like accepted Christ as my Savior and put my faith in him that I am not a sinner. But it is like still like a struggle, and I'm not perfect. And what kind of what kind of faith would you need to have? You know, going back to that quote, I will read it one more time, but faith doesn't say, I see this is good for me, therefore God must have sent it. Instead, faith declares God sent it, therefore it must be good. I think that's a Spurgeon quote. I can't remember. I should have wrote that down. What kind of faith would it be if, like, when you become a Christian, life is perfect and there is, you know, like minimal suffering? You know, there's like accidents that might happen, but like, you know, you're gonna live like just a great, wonderful life. That's not what the gospel teaches. You know, there is gonna be suffering, and we should kind of enjoy it when we like face these trials in our life. You wouldn't need much faith at all. It'd be like obvious, like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go for this religion. I'm definitely gonna believe this because look, all these Christians, they have perfect, wonderful lives. No, that's not it. That's not how it should be, and that's not how it is. It is not like a cakewalk when you become a Christian. Yeah, so that is it. Those are my thoughts. Those are my insights, things that are going on. God's working on me. And again, pray for me. Tomorrow is phone's dying. Tomorrow is my 5th treatment, so it should be grand. The rest of the week will just skate by. All right, thank you everyone for your prayers and for your encouragements and for watching these videos. I really do appreciate it.